Why would anyone want to purposefully sink their face in and make themselves look like a skeleton? All of this talk about sugar daddies and sugar babies and sugar mamas and all of that makes it seem like this is really the glamorous lifestyle that you should be living and should be pursuing. And I just feel like we complain so much as a society about unattainable beauty standards, and it's to the point where we can't even appreciate a natural face and a natural body for what it is. Colorism is definitely real, and reverse colorism definitely does not exist. The moral of the story is to stop letting rich people trick you into thinking that the reason why you're not successful is because you're lazy and you don't work hard. Hey guys, what is up? It is Cam. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to be doing an unpopular opinions. I have been collecting some unpopular opinions over the last couple of months. There are definitely some topics that I'm very interested in talking about that I don't necessarily think deserve their own full video. But I definitely want to get a preliminary opinion about some of these things out like now because I'm just itching to talk about some of them. I just think there's been a lot going on and a lot needs to be discussed, and we're here to talk about it today. So before we get into it, if you have not already, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel as well as clicking the notification bell so you never miss another one of my uploads. Right now we are on the road to 20,000 subscribers, and I'm so excited to grow this channel and continue to welcome more people into the community and joining the family so we can continue to have incredible conversations and just lots and lots of discourse across the different topics that I bring up. And so yeah, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you have the notification bell clicked so you don't miss out when I post new videos. And if you want to follow my lifestyle and beauty content, all of that stuff is posted on my second channel. You can subscribe to that as well if you're interested. And if you want to keep up with me outside of YouTube, you can follow me on all of my social media. Everything will be on the screen and linked down below. And without further ado, let's get into it. So my first unpopular opinion is about the relationship between Diddy, aka Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, and Caresha, aka Young Miami from the City Girls. In the beginning, when they first kind of came out with whatever their relationship or situationship was, I definitely was not too concerned or at all interested in whatever it is that they had going on. But I feel like over the course of development of their relationship, a lot of weird things have just been coming up that I have found to be very strange, especially considering the fact that a lot of younger girls look up to Caresha, and there's just some strange behavior being perpetuated online. I actually made a video about how female rap ruined this generation a couple of videos ago if you're interested in checking that out, but I kind of go more into that. But for this particular situation, I really do feel like this generation has kind of glorified being a side chick. And what I mean when I say that is that I feel like women nowadays, especially if they are in Gen Z, have become comfortable with not requiring a man to do much in order to be with them. And in this case, in the case of like the side chick, or if a man is seeing multiple other women in addition to you, a lot of women have been settling for things that they don't necessarily deserve and have been promoting this sort of culture of settling when you definitely do not have to. There's definitely a man out there for you that will treat you right and that will make sure you are well taken care of and that you are the priority and the focus, where you don't have to compete for his attention with other women. Because to me, having fun is one thing, but being publicly disrespected is definitely another. And like I was saying before, women are not requiring men to truly value them anymore. And they're definitely not making them work for anything at all, like I feel like they have in past generations, especially whenever it comes to this food out culture. You can pretty much buy women off nowadays, especially with the type of culture that's being promoted through music. If it's anything to do with materialism, you pretty much got a girl bag, and it just feels like the standards aren't so high. And also because of the recent stuff that has come up whenever it comes to Caresha and her comment about liking being peed on, and by that I mean golden showers, it's giving very much R. Kelly vibes. I literally don't know what's going on there.
What is it? I can't say it. You got to.
It say take a shower if you like golden showers. I do.
Golden showers, meaning when the guy pees on you, pee on you everywhere. You like it?
I just like it.
You do? Freak. Freak of the week. You like golden shower?
I do.
But like peeing on you?
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's just too.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never had a golden shower.
I did.
Did you?
I don't had to go to the shower and I like it.
I give them go to the shower.
It's fun.
However, I feel like we need to bring back shame. People have gotten way too comfortable telling all of their business on the internet. Like, some things need to be kept in the draft, some things need to be private, some things you need to take to the grave, because we don't need to know all of your business, especially when it comes to your sex life. I feel like a lot of people are so comfortable, especially nowadays, sharing everything that goes down in their bedrooms on the internet, and we don't need to know that. And I think it's fascinating seeing how other people become so invested in those things, when I find it really weird to think about what other people do in their alone adult time. Does no one else find that weird? To me, it's just the overall principle that people are just going on and airing themselves out and really having no regard for things that are considered to not be socially acceptable, especially when it comes to something as disgusting as that. It definitely shows how much someone does or does not value themselves and what they're willing to share, and how they're willing to allow other people to perceive them, especially whenever it comes to an online or a public presence. And I just feel like whenever it comes to this relationship in general, and not just caresha specifically, the role modeling definitely starts at home. And I feel like a lot of the conversation about how much influence these celebrities and influencers have over young people and children, a lot of people like to hold the influencers and celebrities and famous people accountable for how they are influencing over the younger generation or over the younger people, when they're not really considering how the role modeling and influencing starts at home. And if you build a strong foundation in your children before they even see foolishness and craziness and ratchetness on the television, it won't faze them. But specifically speaking towards Diddy and caresha, whenever it comes to their own kids, they're not necessarily setting a good example for how they should operate in a relationship and how they should act towards men and women and how they should expect to be treated by men and women whenever it comes to romantic relationships with the behavior that they're displaying online. Because again, we have to remember the type of example that we're setting for our own kids. And I know Diddy himself would not necessarily be okay with a man treating his daughters like how he treats women, and I'm sure caresha wouldn't be okay with her children being treated a certain way by whoever it is that they are pursuing romantically. So why would you go and perpetuate that yourself and give them an example of what not to do? And part of me feels like this relationship only exists purely for shock value, but I haven't really come to a full consensus of whether or not they're just doing this for publicity or if they're actually really in it. And if they're actually really in it, I don't think I would necessarily be surprised, but I definitely feel like it's giving them a little bit more relevancy and it's keeping their names in the tabloids and giving them the publicity even if it's not necessarily great. So I wanted to take a moment out of the video to thank Dossier for sending me some fragrances to try out and review for you guys. To me, what better way to express your individuality than through fragrance, which is something that Dossier is all about. They make inspired fragrances of popular designer fragrances on the market, and they sell them for a fraction of the price. You guys know how much I love fragrance, and it's even better when I can smell good and stand out without having to spend a lot of money. With Dossier, you're able to get all of the smelling good with none of the burden of high prices, and the inspired fragrances are actually so close, if not very similar to the designer ones that they're inspired by. Check out the description box for more info on how you can get your hands on some inspired unique fragrance. And again, thank you Dossier for sending these over to share with my audience. And so my next unpopular opinion is basically about how everyone talks about how they want to have a celebrity or influencer that has a real natural body until they actually get one that has a real and natural body. It kind of plays into this idea of how everyone looks the same, and pretty much people are taking up this very standardized look across social media and across the industry, especially considering what plastic surgeries are popular right now, what hairstyles, what makeup trends, and different looks and styles are popular right now. A lot of people hop on those trends, which I'm not necessarily saying it's bad to hop on trends, but if people are hopping on all of the same trends in droves, these things are going to get tired and played out quicker than if they weren't. And I look at the way that people bullied someone like Coyle Ray because she has definitely a smaller figure and she is considered a skinny girl. Like, there were people online literally bullying her to get enhanced and picking on her and projecting their own insecurities onto her because she doesn't have the stereotypical female rapper's body. And most recently, I think about how a lot of people bully Glorilla because of the way that she looks, because she has very, very traditional black features and she is pretty much refusing to change them just because people are trying to pressure her. And the fact that she has sort of a regular body, and people don't like that. They like to see the over exaggerated and accentuated curves, boobs, and butt that most of the hot and trending girls have right now. And I feel like she's made it very clear several times that she is not willing to change or trying to enhance any of these things about herself, but people keep coming at her and telling her to do it because they're uncomfortable uncomfortable with the way that she looks. And I just feel like we complain so much as a society about unattainable beauty standards, and there are so many girls, specifically women, that go out and enhance themselves in order to fit these impossibly ridiculous standards. And it's to the point where we can't even appreciate a natural face and a natural body for what it is, because we're so used and so conditioned to seeing things that are fake. And I feel like if these girls do end up falling victim to the pressure of getting these alterations done, they end up getting bullied for that too. It's almost like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, and you definitely cannot please everybody on the internet. I personally feel like people should do whatever they want to do with their own face and body, because at the end of the day, it's their own personal responsibility to deal with the repercussions of their actions, no matter what that is. But as a society, we don't need to complain about excessive alterations of faces and bodies, especially with what we see on social media, while simultaneously trying to bully or pressure someone into changing something about themselves because we're uncomfortable and deem them unattractive if they don't look like every other girl up and down our timeline. My next unpopular opinion is about the death of the preteen era. There has definitely been a rise over the last few years of girls looking older and older, younger and younger. I don't know if any of that made sense, but basically what I'm trying to say is that 12-year-olds are looking like 20-year-olds, and it's something that is not okay. There's something in the water. It's getting weird. And the reason why I bring this up specifically is because of the Combs twins' 16th birthday party and the way that they were dressed, along with the Game's daughter and the way that she was dressed. A lot of people were very concerned that they were dressing sexy with how young they are, and I'm just here to say that inappropriate clothing is only the beginning. Like, it's not gonna stop there. The rise of social media has created this sort of pressure and rush to become a baddie and glow up as early as possible. And so you're pretty much having kids walking around here with snatched bodies, 30-inch bust downs with a middle part, silky straight Brazilian bundles, and the standard Fashion Nova wardrobe to match. Like, you're not gonna get the knockers with the 2 afro puffs and the Justice and Claire sort of outfits anymore. The girls that are 13 years old are looking like me nowadays, and I find a large problem with that, especially when it comes to predators and when it comes to grooming. And I feel like the perception of what teenagers and preteens should look like is largely based off of social media and television and not actual real life, because like I was saying before, in no world should somebody that's 12 or 13 step out of the house dressing like someone that is 21 or 22 years old. Their wardrobe should be like night and day, complete 180, incredibly different from one another. But I see the line blurring and blurring more as we continue to get heavy into this generation of social media, especially whenever it comes to TikTok, because these girls definitely do feel, I guess, the need and want to grow up faster than what I think that they have to. And changing the look is really just the first step, but I feel like a lot of people fail to realize that you can't just change a look in order to be more mature. You actually have to emotionally mature in order to get there. I feel like there is no way in which the word sexy and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old should be used in the same sentence, because those are literally children. So when I see people coming online talking about how teenagers or preteens are dressing sexy, that raises a bunch of huge red flags in my brain, because that lets me know something has gone very awry. And I definitely feel like it's a problem that needs to be addressed, but a lot of people don't want to talk about it because we're in a day and age where people just allow children to do whatever they want to do without letting them see how their actions now are going to impact their lives and their futures later. And this is why children are thinking that they can artificially grow up fast and that they can be 12 going on 21. Bring back the awkward preteen phase. Bring it back. We miss you. I feel like the whole conversation surrounding nepotism babies is absolutely ridiculous, because I think for them to come on the internet and say they don't benefit in any way from the name that they're attached to is completely tone deaf and just out of touch with reality. You have people like Zoe Kravitz, Timothy Chalamet, John David Washington, Lily Rose Depp, Hailey Bieber. All of these people are nepotism babies. And nepotism definitely breeds success. Like 9 times out of 10, you will find something to be good or successful at because you have the access. And like I was saying before, it's incredibly tone deaf to say you work hard without acknowledging the privileges and advantages that come with being attached to a specific name. And my problem specifically comes from the privileged people that speak down on underprivileged people from a place of condescendence, knowing full well that they have never had to struggle a day in their life. Moral of the story is to stop letting rich people trick you into thinking that the reason why you're not successful is because you're lazy and you don't work hard, because that take is incredibly out of touch with reality, especially coming from somebody that has been raised in generational wealth. There is a very stark difference between starting from the bottom and pulling yourself up by the bootstraps versus having an upper hand and getting a head start because of your name and your background. And whenever it comes to the US, one of the main ways that you can grow and get big and get rich and famous for real is if you know people and or are attached through nepotism. And I mean, there are other ways, such as if you have the money already and you want to build build off that, or even if you sell your soul in a certain industry, but not everybody is willing to do that because, like, why would you be? The system was not built on a work hard every day and you will reap everything that you work so hard for basis. It just simply doesn't work like that for the average person. Just acknowledge the fact that nepotism has afforded you to be where you are today. That's literally it. Next, we have the downfall of the Mielle podcast, and this is me speaking specifically towards the whole situation that has been going on with Andrew Tate. I feel like there comes a time where misogyny no longer holds up and stands up against society at large, and I think this is something that we're largely seeing with the sort of downfall of the Mielle podcast. And I think it's very interesting because Andrew himself has made some okay points whenever it comes to the type of content that he's making and the message that he's trying to promote, but a lot of it is getting lost in the different clips that he uploads to short form media, and you won't be able to see those takes that are decent unless you go and watch through his entire catalog. But why lose brain cells watching through the entire catalog just to get to the couple of gems when you could just avoid it altogether? And I feel like the way that he marketed himself, plus the way that others have talked about and perceived his content, has ultimately tainted his image and made him unlikable. But this is the way that he wanted to present himself to us. So it's not really our fault for interpreting his words the way in which he's conveying them. This is clearly how he wanted to present himself to the world. And speaking specifically to the manosphere, I feel like the stuff that these men perpetuate is always going to be harmful because it promotes the idea of toxic masculinity, which teaches men to be incredibly entitled. And I feel like that's a large reason why a majority of men have anger issues, tend to be violent and have violent outbursts, and just tend to overall be disrespectful towards women even if they don't necessarily deserve it. I think whenever it comes to Andrew Tate, regardless of whether you like him or not, at this point he has been caught doing illegal stuff and running from the government, so he deserves to be under the jail. And I feel like this situation, coupled with the death of Kevin Samuels, basically means that the whole manosphere needs to be dissolved, because we definitely don't need any more of these men promoting such toxicity on the internet, especially considering that a lot of people are trying to learn how to grow and heal, and we don't need to be dealing with the extra rah-rah. And so I really want to talk about monaleo and reverse colorism really quickly, because I definitely have a couple of things to say whenever it comes to that. The first thing being that colorism is definitely real and reverse colorism definitely does not exist.
A very important question, because I'll be battling people with this question all the time.
Okay.
Do you believe in colorism, and do you feel like it's easier as a female rapper to like make it big when you're like of a lighter complexion?
Believe in colorism. Colorism is very real. It's a very real thing for sure, and it definitely is easier for, not to take away from anybody who is a light skinned rapper, but definitely easier for a woman with a lighter complexion to blow up quicker than a dark skinned woman for sure.
But like, why do you feel like that? Because like, I be getting into it, people, right? I used to get made fun of at school because I wasn't black enough. Bitches used to try to cut my hair. Like, people be thinking that like light-skinned girls don't go through colorism. We go through colorism just, I don't know if it's like as bad as like brown-skinned girls.
It's not colorism. It's not colorism. If you're light skinned, it's not colorism.
So what is it called?
If people was picking with you, then that's like, but it's not colorism. Like, colorism is discrimination against darker skinned, complected, like darker complected people.
So you're basically talking about reverse.
Well, reverse colorism then, because they used to be like, you ain't even black for real. You're white. Go over there with the white girls. And I'm just like, bitch.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I am black, actually.
Yeah, that's an interesting experience. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's reverse colorism. Like, I don't think that that's a thing, but I understand.
I'm trying to describe the moment that you're having, and that's kind of like what you're saying. But also, it's like that thing like, oh, you're pretty to be a dark skin.
Yeah, but we also get, oh, you're pretty to be a black. Like, I've had white people and others.
Well, that's racism.
Yeah, that's racism. Right. But like, they'd be like, you're pretty to be a black. I've had black girls be like, you're pretty. Are you mixed? Like that. Are you mixed? You have to be mixed.
Right.
I thought you was mixed. You mixed. Why gotta be mixed?
Right. To play devil's advocate, especially little black girls in general, we've been indoctrinated to think that just the way that I grew up, darker skinned people experience a completely different experience than people who are light skinned, and that is just like the bottom line. And that is where the issue of colorism comes in for sure.
Me personally, as somebody that falls on the darker end of the spectrum, like I'm clearly not light skinned, I know what it's like to suffer from colorism, and I'm personally tired of light skinned people invalidating people people that have darker complexions whenever it comes to their own experiences with colorism. Because colorism can be defined as prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group. So when it comes to reverse colorism, if you are not of a darker skin tone, you technically cannot be discriminated against by this definition. And if you're paralleling colorism to something like racism, it works in the same way. What light-skinned people experience whenever they talk about being picked on for being light-skinned and pretty, or being picked on for being light-skinned and pretty with pretty eyes and pretty hair, is just straight up bullying and or racism itself. It's not colorism. So I wish people would stop with that narrative, because it only perpetuates more invalidation of people that actually do suffer from and experience colorism in their everyday life. And when it comes to any entertainment industry or just any industry in general, people of darker skin tones definitely do have harder times breaking into it or finding success, because lighter skin is preferred and has always been preferred. And if you are not non-black and if you are not white, the closer to light you are, the better it is for these people. And I feel like we are just now starting to sort of break away from that, but it is still largely perpetuated across a bunch of different industries even today. So it's unfair to tell someone that they are getting the same opportunities, or that they don't struggle with being promoted or being seen or being valued by whatever it is that they're trying to be valued by, because of the fact their skin is dark, because that definitely does exist and it's real and people go through it every single freaking day. And so my next unpopular opinion is about the Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez trial. And the first thing I want to talk about whenever it comes to this is just how interesting it was to see how everything unfolded, considering the controversy surrounding the case and the whole situation this entire time. There have been so many interviews, so many diss tracks, so many he said, she said, they said things happening, that it's been really hard to follow a straight narrative and a straight storyline whenever it comes to this, especially if you're someone that was looking for and trying to figure out what the actual truth was. But one thing's for sure and two things for certain: Tory Lanez was found guilty. Tory Lanez is guilty. Tory Lanez popped Meg in the foot. So I don't really know why people are upset with the verdict. I definitely think it was because the court of opinion turned the entire trial into a judge of character, instead of actually focusing on the fact that someone was on trial for whether or not they popped someone else with a weapon. And I 100% think that's where a lot of the blurred lines came into play. A lot of people were trying to figure out what led up to Megan being popped, because the fact of the matter stood that she was harmed. So we were just trying to figure out how it happened and who did it, not whether it happened or not. And a lot of people were really upset because of the fact that Megan seemed very messy throughout the entire trial, but again, that doesn't take away from the fact that she was harmed and she was hurt. But I definitely think this case goes to show that a lot of the times people will go to great lengths to not believe a black woman, and that doesn't necessarily mean I'm absolving Megan of lying and not being truthful throughout this entire process, but I definitely am saying that if she was saying that she was hurt, then we need to believe that she was hurt. I don't necessarily think it matters what led up to her being hurt, other than the fact that she was popped, because why are we firing weapons at people that we consider to be friends? Seems a little weird. And so at the end of the day, I'm just happy that the verdict came out that Tory Lanez was actually guilty, and I'm hoping that when they go and appeal the case that he is still found guilty, so that he can serve the time that he needs to serve and that Megan can get the justice she deserves. This entire situation is incredibly traumatic, and there's no telling whether or not Megan is going to be blackballed from the industry for causing such a stir up, especially considering that there were a lot of male rappers and a lot of people that were actually on Tory's side for whatever reason, and that were preying on Megan's downfall. And the fact that she came out on top just probably is going to make it really hard for her to continue to create music in the industry without facing any sort of resistance. My next unpopular opinion is about the Mielle hair oil controversy, and I talked about this a little bit in my most recent video, the commodification of black culture. And so I just want to reiterate a couple of points that I said in that video, because I definitely think it is something to consider. Black people do not care that white people are going and using rosemary hair oil in their hair. What they care about is the fact that, one, these products are limited in the hair care sections that we have available to us, when non-black people have loads and loads of products at their disposal already and we have very few. Two, the fact that white people are gaslighting black people into thinking that their concerns over what's happening with the Mielle hair oil and the brand itself are invalid and are exaggerated and just doing too much or gatekeeping, because that's definitely not the case. Situation is not about oil itself. It's about the principle, not only of hearing people out when they express legitimate concerns, especially whenever it comes to the fact that you're consuming products out of a market that is already so marginalized and narrow for the people that it is specifically catered to, on top of the fact that you're dragging a product that was not even meant for your her hair in the first place and basically littering the product itself with bad reviews on top of selling it out to see whether or not it'll work for you and see whether the reviews are true or not. I just think all in all, white people definitely have to be more conscious about promoting things that are targeted and primarily marketed to a black consumer base, because whenever it comes to our stuff, we have fought incredibly hard in order to get it into major retailers and popular stores that are widely accessible to many people in the first place. And this is very recent, like within the last 10-15 years, whereas whenever it comes to them, their stuff has kind of always been in these popular stores and major retailers. And so there's definitely no need for them to come into our section. But also whenever it comes to social media, and especially how quickly things can go viral on the internet, especially products that very popular influencers are promoting, things sell out. And when they sell out, the people that really need them no longer have access to them. And a lot of the times they no longer have access to them for months and months at a time until the company can meet the demand of the newfound popularity, which a lot of the times it's really hard to do. And so my next unpopular opinion is about Ice Spice and how she is not going to be a one-hit wonder. I feel like a lot of people don't like Ice Spice because they feel like she's just another light-skinned girl coming into the rap industry and getting opportunities over other dark-skinned girls, and a lot of people felt like she was just going to be another one-hit sensation or one-hit wonder because she had one song go viral on TikTok called Munch. But I personally think that her career could go one of two ways. Based off of how much and how frequent she's been pushing out music lately, it seems like she's continuing to try to capitalize off of this newfound success and notoriety that she's been giving, especially as she's been pushed out into the limelight. But I have seen a lot of people online complaining about how a lot of her stuff is starting to sound the same, and if she doesn't switch it up soon, people will find themselves bored and will be more willing to tune out to the new projects that she's coming out with. And I think whenever it comes to Ice Spice herself, people really wanted her to be just another pretty face and someone that didn't actually have talent, but a lot of people are actually enjoying her music. And me personally, I feel like she's putting out a decent amount of bops. I mean, my entire intro is based off of her Bikini Bottom because I think the beat goes absolutely hard, but you know, that's neither here nor there. I think people's concerns about her trajectory and longevity in the industry are definitely valid, and I do think that while a lot of her stuff sounds very, very similar to one another, it's possible that she could end up switching it up and finding success still with her music career, or she could possibly just be making really good viral or TikTok music. Who knows? So really quickly, I want to talk about the idea of going to college to find a husband, because it's a conversation that has been kind of going crazy on TikTok recently, and I definitely wanted to add my 2 cents because I think it is very interesting, especially as someone that is currently in their senior year of college and is about to graduate. I think a lot of people found it very difficult to believe that other girls were not going to college with the sole mission and reason to find their husband, and on the other hand, a lot of girls were very confused as to why people were only going to college for the sole reason and purpose of finding their husband. And all I have to say whenever it comes to that is the fact that black people were just raised completely differently, considering the circumstances of being raised in like a single mother household and just the disproportionate rates in which black people in general have been able to get jobs and break into professionalism and things like that. A lot of the times when we're growing up, we are taught that we need to focus on the books, that we need to make sure we get our education. If that means 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees, it don't matter how much it takes for you to be able to get what you need to get to be successful. That is what you need to do. And finding love, finding a man, having a relationship is pushed onto the back burner, because I feel like whenever it comes to a lot of our moms, they were burned by men that were not necessarily down for life, and it has made them raise us to be people that are focused less on the men who are not down for life and more on the books that will ensure a long and successful career, especially one that will pay well and help lay the foundation for breaking the poverty cycle and starting to build up generational wealth. And so it's definitely very interesting to hear that white women are going to college solely to find a spouse so that they can go ahead and settle down. But I feel like whenever it comes to us, we have not been afforded the privilege, the money, the resources, anything to be able to even think about settling down straight after college, especially considering that if we as black women are focused largely on our studies and having a successful career and making sure our academics and everything like that are straight, a lot of the times we are seen as intimidating and too strong and too independent, and men don't want us anyway. So tell me how that makes sense, because the math ain't mathin'. And so next I want to talk about Nick Cannon and all of his babies' mothers, because I have been seeing a lot of discourse recently online about how he's finally going on to admit that he does not have the bandwidth to look after all of these children. And I remember making a video about baby mama culture about a year ago, and people drugged me ruthlessly in the comment section of that video for giving my thoughts and opinions on baby mama culture, especially whenever it comes to Nick Cannon and the fact that he has all of these kids and he's creating a bunch of broken single mother households. Because a lot of people love to make the argument that he can afford to have the kids, so he should be allowed to have the kids. But a lot of people were missing the point of the fact that you do not have the time to be able to dedicate equally to all of your, I think it's 12 children now. And the more and more children you have, the less and less time that each child gets to have individually dedicated to them, especially if they're split up between multiple households, which I feel like in Nick Cannon's case, I believe all of his children are split up between something like 7 or 8. I think it may be between 6 and 8 households, but that definitely is incredibly hard to manage and to uphold. And I think that now he's realizing that he can't actually maintain the time required to truly build a bond with each individual child, and the mothers themselves are starting to feel that. And I really feel bad for Mariah Carey in this instance, because she was Nick Cannon's wife at one point, and they do have twins together, and I think she was probably the first person to speak out about this and basically went online and talked about how Nick Cannon wasn't making enough time for the twins. And this sort of sparked a domino effect with the rest of the baby's mothers saying that their children weren't necessarily getting all of the time and attention that they needed either, and that money basically wasn't cutting it. But the one thing I have to say towards that is that when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And if you're going to allow yourself to be the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th baby's mother, then I think at that point you know what you're getting into, and you're playing right into some weird behavior and setting yourself and your child up for failure, especially if this man is not trying to marry you before he puts a child in you and tries to bring an extra person into the world. And so my next unpopular opinion is about age gaps, and I feel like this is some weirdness that has definitely been largely normalized in Hollywood more than anywhere else, I feel like. And as it becomes more and more popular, and as it becomes more and more prevalent, especially in this generation, and more public, or at least more noticeable to us as onlookers of media and entertainment, it definitely is something that is interesting to think about.
People are very upset with Billie Eilish because of her new boyfriend. So Billie just started dating this guy named Jesse Rutherford. Now Billie and Jesse have an 11-year age gap, with Jesse being 31 and Billie being 20. Because of this, a lot of people have a huge problem with them dating. There's also some other concerns people have, like apparently Jesse knew Billie when she was very not of age, and Billie completely idolizes Jesse, which a lot of people are saying creates a power imbalance between them.
Me personally, I think it's highly romanticized by the media, because they make it seem like something that doesn't necessarily require a lot of work and that is easier than being in a relationship with someone that is near, around, or of your similar age. All of this talk about sugar daddies and sugar babies and sugar mamas and all of that makes it seem like this is really the glamorous lifestyle that you should be living and should be pursuing in order to make sure you are set, when that's not necessarily the case. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that there is a very fine line between having an age gap and the relationship being predatory. And I think this is a lot of the concern that people brought up whenever it came to the guy that Billie Eilish is in a relationship with. A lot of people were worried for her because they were like, girl, what are you doing? And why are you with this man? Because I think it's different if you've been an adult for years and decide to get with someone that has a little bit of an age gap with you. But if you're an adult and you're going after someone that is freshly turned 18, that's a little suspect. Like, you literally have no business being with someone that was a minor literally just last month. And people were raising similar concerns with people like Olivia Rodrigo, Millie Bobby Brown, and many others. Because I feel like the critical part of this is not even necessarily the fact that there is an age gap, but a lot of the times whenever it comes to these relationships, you definitely have a particular power dynamic that lies in the hands of the person that is older, along with a class dynamic, especially if the person that is older is in possession of a lot of money or is wealthy, because that plays a large part into the conversation as well, and I feel like no one talks about that. But whenever it comes to age gaps, in my opinion, it definitely gives when people run to the OnlyFans pages of people that have freshly turned 18. It's giving predatory vibes, and you can't convince me otherwise. And my last unpopular opinion for today is about the trend and hype over the buccal fat removal. I think this conversation is very interesting because of the fact that buccal fat removal, I don't think is a procedure that makes people look good. You know, I can maybe go toe to toe with you in an argument on a BBL or a boob job or a rhinoplasty, box eye lift, or whatever they call it. But when it comes to a buccal fat removal, why would anyone want to purposefully sink their face in and make themselves look like a skeleton? Please explain it to me, because it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense, especially considering that in that particular part of your face, you start losing fat there as you age gradually naturally over time. And if you go ahead and get that particular fat pad taken out of your face on purpose, you are going to look so sunken in. You're going to look void of life by the time you are 40 years old. And I just don't think it's worth it for an aesthetic that probably is going to last for a solid -2 months.
Okay, quick unpopular opinion. Buccal fat removal. Just saying, when we're all like 70, that's what's gonna make us look young. Like, I would love to have a more defined jawline, but when I'm old, this little baby fat is gonna keep me young. Like, are we forgetting? Like, we're just thinking very short term right now. If I remove this, I'm just gonna be all bones. Guys, don't forget, or like, this is the collagen, this is the bounciness of our skin. Like, this is what keeps us youthful. Don't get rid of it all.
Now, I'm not 110% sure that all of these celebrities have had this procedure, but I'm going to show you pictures of celebrities that I believe have had this procedure. Okay, so this is Sophie Turner before, and this is her more recently. She's still an absolutely gorgeous woman. I think this procedure just like sinks your face in and unnaturally ages you and prematurely ages you. Here's another example. Here's Dove Camryn before, and here is Dove Camryn currently. I thought at first maybe this was just her contour, but I do think that she might have had this procedure because you can tell if you look over here where her face kind of sinks in under the cheekbone. And this one is Amelia Hamlin. This is before, and this is more recently. This was very recently, actually. You can see where her like face kind of sinks in and her jawbone pops out a little more. So like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, the youthful, like natural plumpness of her face is gone when the buccal fat gets removed from the cheeks. And then this is Leah Michelle before, and this is her very recently. So you can definitely tell there's a big difference in the way her face looks. She's still absolutely a beautiful woman. I just think that youthfulness goes away when you remove the buccal fat.
I feel like whenever it comes to this conversation, pretty much just continuing to follow the trend of normalizing plastic surgery. And even as we're getting away from things like the BBL, I think I'm starting to notice more procedures that are a little bit more subtle and are a little bit less invasive because they don't require as much recovery time and they aren't as expensive. And the more and more these plastic surgery features become like this, the more and more people will have access to them, especially younger and younger, and that'll make people feel pressured to look a certain way when they don't necessarily have to, especially if it's a trend. But on the other hand, I am glad that awareness is being brought to these procedures because it shows you just how much work influencers and celebrities and just famous people in general are getting done in order to uphold a certain look and maintain a certain aesthetic. And I think with that, you start to see just how much goes into the way that they look and how much effort it takes to look like they look, and that they're not just born with it and that it's not natural, and that's okay. And I feel like as we get more into the conversations of different plastic surgery procedures, there is definitely more transparency. People are able to know exactly what procedures exist so that they can be able to pinpoint when people are getting work done that doesn't necessarily look like they're before or even look natural in some cases. Moral of the story, keep your cheek fat, especially if you're someone that has chubby cheeks, unless you want to look withered away in the next 10 years. Alright guys, so that is it for this video. If you made it this far, go ahead and comment this emoji so I know you made it this far. And if you liked it, do not forget to give it a thumbs up so I can know that you liked it and want to see more content like this. Another huge shout out to Dossier. Thank you so much for providing the fragrances for me to share with my audience. If you are interested in getting some luxury fragrance at an affordable price, do not forget to check out Dossier. All of their information will be in the description box. And if you like this content and want to see more content like this or just want to see more of me in general, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to this channel as well as click the notification bell so you never miss another one of my uploads. We are officially on the road to 20,000 subscribers, which is incredibly exciting. So if you want to join the family, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Like, do it right now before you forget. Go ahead, do it right now. And if you're interested in my lifestyle and beauty content, you can subscribe to my second channel because that is where I post all of that, all the natural hair, all the vlogs, self-care, all of that is on that channel. So go over there and subscribe as well. And if you want to keep up with me outside of YouTube, you can follow me on all of my social media. I'll make sure to put everything on the screen and link it down below. And yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate it, and I hope you'll be back. Don't forget to be the light, and I'll see you next time. Bye.